5th, 20 days until Christmas, if you can believe it. We have a lot to dive into tonight. We had some Monday Night Football that turned out to be a great game last night, much surprise to many. Also want to get into the injuries in that game, signing in the NFL, lots happening. Also today, going to talk about the transfer portal in football, in college football, because it's crazy town right now. Going to get into some NHL stories. So, big show planned. I'm going to talk about the World Juniors tomorrow on the program. That's the plan, to do that tomorrow night. Canada's team was released today, and there's some interest. It's a really young team. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. The camp starts on Sunday. There's a kid on the team named Noah Warren, who I have heard of for a while, was a second-round pick last year. I'm hoping he makes the team. I think it's a long shot, but I'm rooting for him. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll also talk about the U.S., Sweden. It's going to be a great tournament again. It's in Gothenburg, Sweden. So time change, things will be different a little bit. Canada plays their first game at 9:30 a.m. on Boxing Day, which, if you ask me, ain't that bad. I like a little 9:30 a.m. start. So we'll get into that tomorrow. Today, the world of hockey, I'm going to talk about the Jets. So they won a game they shouldn't have last night, but that's sports. Sometimes you get the luck of the draw. Currently, there's the NHL Board of Governors meetings in Boca. All the insiders are there breaking news on salary cap and projected revenue of the NHL and what they want to do with neck guards and World Cup of Hockey. And when will Russia be allowed back into these tournaments? Probably never. But through all that jargon, projections, which I didn't really care about, although the fact that the league's going to make $6 billion this year is interesting. It's a good year for the league. Arizona is planning to build a new rink, which I did not have on the bingo card. But again, I'm not buying that until I see the stakes in the ground, if you will. But the biggest news coming out of the Board of Governors meetings, to me, is the NHL draft in 2024. Not the selection, not who's going to go number one, not who's in the running. We'll get to that later. And whether it's that kid Celebrini or it's the kid who didn't make the U.S. Olympic, so the U.S. World Junior team didn't make the preliminary roster, we'll decide that later. What interested me about this, the NHL draft in 2024 is happening at the Las Vegas Sphere. Who owns the Knicks and the Rangers and a variety of other things, part owns the Sphere. If you haven't heard about the Sphere, you haven't, Google it tonight. You won't be disappointed. It looks like one of the most incredible venues ever created, certainly in North America. There's beautiful stadiums. I think SoFi in Los Angeles and Inglewood is one of the nicest, where the Rams and Chargers call home. It's beautiful. Doesn't look like a stadium. It looks like a museum, but it's a museum that you actually want to go to. It's not like an art museum and you walk in, you want to walk the hell out the second you got in, you thought it was something else. You ever do that? You walk in and say, this is oh no, or stuck looking at this picture of a lake with a kid in it. Why the kid's in the lake, don't know, don't really care to find out. But the Sphere is awesome. The Sphere can house concerts, games, drafts. Dana White is saying, I think he told the Nelk boys or somebody that Noche UFC, was the Mexican Independence Day card, will happen at the Sphere next year. But Noche UFC was in September. What interested me is the NHL going to get there first? There may have been a concert. Lil Wayne might play there. But to me, this is a big deal. Getting there before the NFL. Getting there before the NBA draft, before the NBA moves and has a team in Vegas. The NBA will take over Vegas later in the week with the in-season tournament. But they're not playing at the Sphere. not playing there. This is going to cost the NHL a lot of money. A lot of money. But I've made this point forever. Put anything meaningful in a good location, people will go. Every year you have to have the draft in a different location. Every year you have to have the draft or have the All-Star game in a different location because you want to grow the game. We want to promote different markets. Okay. Sure. The NFL's had the Pro Bowl in Hawaii for a decade, and they've had it in Vegas for the last 3 years. So, where they host events, I wonder, do they need to go to Indiana? Does Indianapolis have it? Oh, wait, Indianapolis has the Combine. Great. Mid-Feb, freeze, go to Indy. Watch them bench press. You can give markets little nuggets, little somethings, hold a watch party, hold something fun to make the fan bases think that they're on the top of the totem pole when they know they're not, but they pretend to be. The NHL should go to the Sphere in Las Vegas for the draft every single year. Make it your place. Who doesn't like Vegas? I haven't been to Vegas, and I already know I like it. Every season, Viva Las Vegas, the Sphere, late June, NHL draft. Before the NFL does it, before the NBA does it, you have it in the palm of your hand. Book it off. Next 10 years, sign a contract. And that money will be crazy. But hey, you're making over $6 billion this year, you told us. So you can afford it. And you think you might be able to get a discount because Jimmy Dolan is part owner of the Sphere. Maybe he'll give up his share, save you a few bucks. Now, lesser markets might not like it. We're tired in Columbus. We want a draft. I don't care. Again, you can give people carrots. The All-Star game this year is in Toronto, which is the hub of sports in Canada at the very least. No denying it. There's a lot of things you can say about Toronto, but not being a strong hockey market is not one of them. Losing hockey market? Sure. Crazy fans? Sure. But they're passionate. But February in Toronto sucks because I've done it. Just to let you guys know, if you want to do like a trip, March break, you want to go to Toronto, I wouldn't recommend going to Toronto. Weather sucks. Not much to do. Sure, you can go downtown, freeze your ass off. You can do that at home. I don't know. You got to fly there. Flight might get delayed. If you're thinking every year, why not Florida? Why not Florida? And why not have the All-Star game closer to, I don't know. Let me think. Closer to March break. I'm just doing this NHL for free. If you can take it. You don't got to give, I'd like a royalty, but if you don't want to give me one, it's fine. TM though, so trademark. You got to put my name on it. How about having the All-Star game, which I don't care about, never will, but I'm trying to help you. I'm telling you about a product I can't stand, but I want to help you. All-Star game every year in Florida. Draft in Vegas. But you move the All-Star game from early February to the end of February. Maybe even early March. Why do this? Why, you ask? Well, the NHL draft coincides with the Pro Bowl every year. That's a fact. Look it up. And as bad as the Pro Bowl is, which it sucks, the NHL is worse, I hear. I don't watch either. But that's what I hear from people that actually give it a chance. So don't go head-to-head with the NFL because that doesn't work for anybody. Not even fucking soccer. So move it away, say, late February. Start the season a few weeks later. Because for some reason they think playing into June's a bad thing for the NHL. Disagree. Because you got to go against the NFL all day for 3/4 of your season. Again, why? Late February, early March, whatever the March break is, go and get a little focus group with some parents with kids. That's not my job. I don't want to talk to kids, so keep them away from me. But have a little focus group, figure out when March break is, and say, hey, every year we're having it in Florida. You might go, well, you're only going to get people from Florida. March break, I'm from Rexton, New Brunswick. I know people every year that go away on March break. Where? To Florida. That's just one place. You think people in Columbus are sitting around on March break just doing nothing? You're going to have people from all different markets going to the warm capital, going to Florida to watch the All-Star game. Just like if you know the place every year, somebody's going to save up and go, we're going to go to the NHL draft because we know where it's going to be every year. It's going to be at the Sphere. It's like having an Olympics. You can plan years in advance and say, we're going to book these hotels for 2026. We're staying at Caesar's Palace. And no, Caesar didn't live there, but I hear it's a nice place. I think these are all smarter decisions than some random year saying, we're going to Indiana. And I love my Pacers. Beat the Celtics last. Tyrese Halliburton. Looks like a star. Is a star. But that's besides the point. The Sphere is awesome. Awesome home run for leagues. But are people in Columbus going to stop watching the sport because you don't give them an All-Star game? I don't think so. Is Toronto going to be pissed that they don't get an All-Star game? They're going to get a World Cup of hockey. Fuck them. Who cares? What does Montreal got? They got a draft. Montreal is great in June. Don't get me wrong. But Centre Bell, which I love, best atmosphere for a game you'll go to in Canada, and it's not close. Or the Sphere in Vegas. Centre Bell, Sphere. Centre Bell, Sphere. I'll take the Sphere. I love that the NHL did this, but they can do more to improve their product. Don't be afraid to have a draft, to have an All-Star game, to have a Pro Bowl in one location. Because the NFL has done it for 2 decades. And they continue to be king. Half the league's quarterbacks are injured and their ratings are still through the roof. Because people can't get enough of it. It's like a drug. And I'm part of the problem. I'm addicted more than anybody. But worrying about Columbus, worrying about Arizona, That's not how the world works. In our world, do we care about the people? Do these political elites care about the lower class people? No. And if they tell you they do, they're a fucking liar. I guess Justin Trudeau might be the only prime minister ever that cares about everybody equally. Ha! I can't even get through that without laughing. But other than him, there's a system, and it's about making money and setting yourself up. Florida's a growing hockey market. They're selling tickets. They got a good team. I went to their rink last year. It's actually really nice. It's in a weird location. There's a lot of parking. Give them that. Lots of parking. We got out of there in 5 minutes on the highway back home. Hey, I'll take that. I don't know what the parking's like in Columbus. Just something to think about, NHL. Don't be struck by the fear of the smaller markets or the bigger ones. Because if you get a polygraph test and you ask people from Toronto, what's better, Toronto or Vegas? If they say Toronto, they're lying. And I love a good liar, but come on. But again, I don't want the credit. I would want my name on it, though. But that's not credit, really. Sphere, draft, and Florida All-Star Game every year. TM. No warm. We start that up 2025, maybe? Good idea. You're welcome. Other news today. Jacob Markstrom of the Calgary Flames suffered a broken finger. He's out week to week. Injured it in practice. Dustin Wolf recalled, so he gets another opportunity in the big leagues. Will be Wolf and Dan Vladar, who will get the bulk of the starts over the next little while. Calgary's on the ice tonight playing the Minnesota Wild, and an intriguing game to me. Minnesota's been on a run since they fired Dean Evison. Calgary's been an up-and-down team all year. The Western Conference is completely on fuego. The Arizona Coyotes have won 5 in a row. It's early December, and nobody is out of it yet by any means. So I don't think this injury for Calgary is going to tank their season, because I think they're going to win some games. They're a good enough team to stay in it. Dan Vladar is a very suitable backup goalie. Dustin Wolf should have gotten an opportunity at the NHL level by now. And he hasn't, because he's been behind Markstrom and Vladar. He's won back-to-back MVPs in the American Hockey League. He's been as good as you can be in the AHL. But for Calgary, you just want to continue to find your game. They're coming off a loss to Vancouver. Again, I think they're a team that's going to sell, but this injury will not tank their season. It's not an injury that's going to keep them out for 3 months. Now, Thomas Chabot, who's already missed a lot of this season, is watching Ottawa a little bit Saturday night play Seattle. And he ran into Oliver Bjorkstrand behind the net, grabbed his knee, and went off the ice. Turns out it was his leg. Ottawa released a report today that they're awaiting an MRI, which is a lie. Do you think that these players are going to normal doctors to get an MRI? Like they're waiting in line behind John the accountant? They got people doing MRIs in their facility. So why say you're waiting an MRI? Maybe there's more gullible people out there than me, but I mean, I think I'm intelligent, but I'm not overly intelligent. I mean, come on. But awaiting an MRI, they know his status. They say he's not playing tonight, but they don't want to tell us yet, so good on Ottawa. But Chabot's becoming an injury plagued player, a guy who's kind of, in layman's terms, a Band-Aid. He can't stay healthy. Comes back for 3 games, he's out for a while. And Ottawa is not in the position of Calgary, where they might lose a few games and you're still in the mix. Ottawa is 9-10 on the season. They're 8th in the Atlantic. They've been incredibly inconsistent. Horrible defensively. Korpisalo hasn't been able to give them a save. And they get the Rangers tonight, who have the best record in the Eastern Conference, 18-4-1. They need every game that they can have. Ottawa this week has the Rangers, Leafs, who have been topsy-turvy, but again, then you got Detroit, who by hook or by crook, Detroit's winning games. And who knows, Patrick Kane could be making his debut at that moment. But Chabot being out hurts because Ottawa's defense should be a strength. It has not been, partly because they don't have him. And when you have injuries, Sanderson's had to play a ton, and he's a stud already. He's a great defenseman. I think he's going to be awesome in the league for years and years to come. Great draft pick, and he's turned out to be everything they'd hoped for and more. But the Ottawa Senators do not have margin for error. They don't have room to play. And it looks like Anton Forsberg's going to get back-to-back starts tonight. So their guy that they paid 5 times 5 has been doing it for them. So they get another bad goalie contract that they have to get rid of. They're without a GM. Fans are still chanting for DJ Smith to be fired. It's not a great environment to be in Ottawa right now. Luckily, there's not that many fans. No offense. So the yelling is at a low roar. Low roar in Aurora. But the Chabot injury hurts because I thought Ottawa would be a playoff team, and I don't think they're going to be. They need an incredible run to get in, to have a shot, and I haven't seen that from them all year. No consistency whatsoever. Another team that's been disappointing, the Buffalo Sabres, they get good news today. Tage Thompson, team's best player, he's been out for 10 games, returns this evening. Buffalo hosts the Detroit Red Wings. Sabres are 10-13-2. Just another bad start for Buffalo. Only 4 points up on Ottawa, but Ottawa has 6 games in hand. Ottawa's only played 19 games. It's staggering that they played that few games at this point. Their schedule that some of these teams are going through. But Tage Thompson is the lightning rod for the Buffalo Sabres. They need him to be Tage Thompson. They're struggling to score goals. Just not getting the production that they hoped. Quietly, Owen Power's been, I think, great. He's only got 1 goal, however, but if you watch him, he's playing 23 minutes a night. He's great. Dahlin has dropped off from his great year. 20 points in 25 games, but he's playing too much. He's playing averaging 25 minutes a night. That's too many minutes. There's only so many guys that can do it, and they're few and far between that can average that many minutes a night and remain productive. Number 1 defenseman, that term seems to be thrown around way too often. Morgan Rielly, Dahlin, that's not what you're meant to do. And again, that's not on them. That's on the coaching staff for putting them in a bad situation. Tage Thompson's being back, and they need him to be good. Speaking of number 1D, Victor Hedman. Game number 1,000 last night. Tampa Bay got off the schneid. Andrei Vasilevsky recorded a shutout. They're off to a really poor start this season. They played a lot more games than teams. They've been wildly inconsistent. But I'm not panicking yet because I trust in Vasilevsky. You see the .840 save percentage. He's coming off a back surgery. He's played a lot of hockey. When he's at his apex, he's the best goalie in the world. Shesterkin hasn't even been that good this year for the Rangers, but they're 18-4-1 because they score a ton of goals every game. My best buddy, Artemi Panarin, had a hat trick the other night. He's been wonderful to start the year. Mika Zibanejad, my guy. Chris Kreider already has 14 goals. He never stops, Chris Kreider, the ageless wonder. That team provides goal scoring. They average 4.5 goals a game, which is second in the NHL. Tampa plays horrible defensively. They don't have the horses. They don't have the depth. Winning has hurt them. Vasilevsky needed a few starts, and he's gotten them. I think he's going to settle in. Doesn't guarantee that Tampa's going to make the playoffs. I think Detroit's really good. I've talked about this. You throw Patrick Kane into the mix with their wide variety of talent already, skill that can produce around the net. Just a fast team. They're kind of like Los Angeles with the fact that they don't have a goaltender that you trust. It's a nomad situation between the pipes. Alex Lyons going tonight, and he's been great. He got Florida into the playoffs last year. With Detroit's number 3 goaltender sitting in the press box, finally gets a start because of an injury, and he's looked damn good since coming over from Sweden. He's kind of been their go-to guy. So there's a lot of mediocrity. There's a lot of teams just jumbled together. Like the Boston Bruins having 37 points after 24 games is quite staggering to me. A team that lost Patrice Bergeron, Hall of Famer, and lost David Krejci, a pillar of their organization. Losing Tyler Bertuzzi to the Maple Leafs and then beating the Maple Leafs twice this season. Quite incredible already. And having a 17-4-3 record. I still would fear I think the Florida Panthers are a really good hockey team. I wouldn't want to play them. I think they have that confidence after going to the Stanley Cup final last year. They know what it takes. They're healthy now. So the Atlantic just has a lot of teams hovering around. Same with the Metropolitan. We kind of talked about this before the season with the Metro. There's not many good teams in this division. Point blank. Rangers are very good. Hurricanes lost again last. I'll talk about them in a minute. Flyers are 13-10-2, but do I trust Philly whatsoever? No. Although, credit to Carter Hart, who has been phenomenal for them. A guy who needed to turn his career around, and he has. .913 save percentage. 7-6-1 in the season doesn't look great, but again, the way they play. One shutout. He's been rock solid for them. He was great last night. They get the 2 points against the Penguins with an overtime win. Blech. Then you go Capitals. Capitals aren't a good team. They got smoked by Arizona last night. Islanders, okay. Penguins, the AARP Penguins, where that Erik Karlsson investment does not look great. so far. That power play looks just lethargic. He might have 19 points in 24 games, but again, I don't want Erik Karlsson. He's not helping their power play, so I don't know what the fuck he's doing. I don't want him. Most overrated defenseman of his generation, but again, Devils have been really disappointing, and the Blue Jackets stink. So we know that. The fact that the Blue Jackets are only 3 points back of the Devils tells you what it's like in the Metro right now. But Carolina, second in the Metro. I thought they'd win the division easily. I still don't think it's out of reach. They can catch a heater. But here's the thing with Carolina. To truly be a Stanley Cup threat, I think this team needs two elements. I'm watching the game last night, watching them play Winnipeg. They should be winning, but they give the puck up. You can't get a save at the right time because Antti Raanta is fine. They didn't lose the game because of him, but you look around and go, Antti Raanta, Korchkov, and Freddie Anderson, hopefully he's okay. He's got blood clots. He may never play again, so that's not an option. So number one, they need a goaltender. To win a Stanley Cup, they're not doing it with this group. Because I've seen this team play great defensively. They were phenomenal defensively against the Florida Panthers. Low-scoring games, but Florida had Mr. Clutch and Matthew Tkachuk. They had kind of game breakers, and Carolina simply didn't. And they didn't have Svechnikov in the playoffs, which obviously hurt them. But they need something. I think Carolina needs a goaltender of substance and need another heavy hitter up front. I'm not saying he has to be a superstar, but he needs to at least be a star player that can produce, that can create offense without the aid of a teammate. Because I like Teuvo Teravainen. He's a good player. Good little shot. Can be crafty. But when you watch him play, he doesn't create much offense without somebody setting him up. Without the offense coming to him. Aho can dish. Svechnikov has a shot, so he can create his own opportunity. But they don't have many others. Elias Lindholm used to play in Carolina. Bill Peters is gone. New general manager since then. Would Lindholm want to come play for Rob Brind'Amour? Would they make that move? Just a name that comes to mind. They need somebody to help them. Are the Nashville Predators having a fire sale? Is that true? Because they're still kind of in the mix in the Western Conference. Would they be open to trading pieces? They don't have a lot, but would Luke Evangelista want to go to Carolina in a deal? I like him. I think he's got more upside than we've seen so far at the NHL level. He's playing for a bad team, but not a whole lot of help. But I like their team. I love Slavin. I'm the king of the Jacob Slavin fan club. Brent Burns can still really play. Brett Pesce, expiring contract, but he's great. Orlov. Chatfield, solid. They got a good team. But they lack that killer instinct. They lack another star-type player to help them push it over the edge. And they need to find it. Because Brind'Amour doesn't have a contract next season. Raanta doesn't have another contract next season. You just re-signed Aho. So what are you playing for? What's the goal of this season? Boone Jenner would help Carolina. Would Columbus part with him? If Buffalo continues to slide, would they trade away a piece? Knowing that they have to get better. Chicago's got nothing you'd want other than Bedard, so close that book. Anaheim. Anaheim's not going to deal Leo Carlson. But do they have anything that you'd value? I like Adam Henrique, but again, not really what they need. I'm not trading Mason McTavish because I think the kid's really good. It's a tough game because you got to find these pieces and make them work and find a good trade partner and make it work for both sides. But things will clear up. That's the thing. Things will become more set in stone. Is St. Louis a good team? Does St. Louis believe they're a playoff team? If so, and if they do or if they don't, would they trade Jordan Kyrou? Would they trade Robert Thomas, hoping to get money off the books? And would Carolina absorb that money to take on Robert Thomas, who would help them win? I think the answer is no, but the answer's got to be yes on somebody because I think they're too good of a team to see this go through and see them make the playoffs and probably win a round, but then get to the second round and not have enough. Their anomaly season was in 2006 when they won the Stanley Cup with having a roster like they do now. But it was an anomaly. Eric Stahl was fantastic. Cam Ward had a playoff that he was never the same again. He was never as good as he was in that 2006 postseason run. So what happens now? Sticking to the game plan that worked nearly 20 years ago, I don't like it. And I love Rod Brind'Amour. You don't have him signed? Let him hit the open market and see how many teams want him. See how many teams are willing to overpay to get Rob Brind'Amour. He might love Raleigh, North Carolina. And I know his sons play and he's got kids that play hockey and want to stay there. But I mean, eventually you kind of get sick of it. The fact that he's in the lame duck, he's a lame duck coach. We heard this about Sheldon Keefe or Kyle Dubas. Rob Brind'Amour's had more success. Rob Brind'Amour has more cachet than either of those two guys, but in Toronto, hear about it. Todd McClellan got an extension in Los Angeles. Rob Brind'Amour has not gotten one yet. Todd McClellan has not won a playoff round in Los Angeles. You might say, oh, they lost to the Oilers twice. I don't care. They haven't won. But you give him a deal to make him feel, a one-year deal to make him feel better. You don't do it for Rod the Bod, who's turned that ship around after the Bill Peters disaster and all that happened after the fact. He gave you credibility. He made people like the Carolina Hurricanes because of him. I like their owner. He likes wearing shorts, going to games. I'm all for that. Doesn't have to wear a stuffy suit and a tie to make himself feel better. But cheap owners are cheap owners. You can win being cheap, but it's difficult. Texas Rangers didn't win going cheap. Vegas didn't win last year going cheap. Kansas City certainly didn't win going cheap. So the trend now is you spend money and you win. The years at the Marlins, the Kansas City Royals, the then Cleveland Indians winning World Series titles, those are kind of in the past. Saving pennies, making sure every check clears. I don't think it's the way to success. I don't think it's the way of the future. You got to spend money to win. You have to be willing to take on contracts to try to. Carolina's not the market of Toronto. They're not the market of the Rangers. But the tough irony is you built a team that might be better than both of them, that can compete with them, but you're just a couple pieces away from getting there. So what do? Do you spend the money to get yourself to that level? Or do you stay where you are and hope for the best? Carolina has done the latter the last number of years. They got to a conference final and they got swept. And getting swept in the conference final means you weren't really close to winning the Stanley Cup, because you weren't. In a best-of-7 series, you won 0 games. The Leafs did that and lost in the second round. So how much better were they, really? Sometimes the writing's on the wall and you just have to see it. I see it with Carolina. I don't worry about them missing the playoffs. I don't worry about them looking around going, okay, we're just going to go get this depth for the trade deadline. All right, see you in May when you're done and another team from the East is representing, the East in the Stanley Cup final. It could be Carolina, because I think they're as good as anybody. But with their current roster, their current talent, I don't think they're going to be there. Scratch that. I know they're not going to be there. Team that defeated Carolina last night was the Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg's third in the Central, but they're only a point back. They're right in the mix. Hellebuck's been great. Laurent Brossoit, over 40 saves last night. He was dialed in. Kyle Connor's got 15 goals on the season. He's been great. Scheifele producing. They've gotten health for the most part on the back end, which has been pivotal for them. Rick Bowness is back on the bench, which is fantastic news. They're a competitive team. And I expect them to be the whole season. You bring back Scheifele, you bring back Hellebuck. Fans weren't showing at the beginning of the year. They do have a good team. Starting to be more and more people come to the rink. Sometimes it's weird. That's sports. One year it goes horrible, the next year you turn it around. That was Calgary's team for a while. I view it with Winnipeg, because they don't have a very different roster than they did last year. Blake Wheeler's gone. And I think he was sick of Winnipeg by the end of it. I think he was sick of Rick Bowness and didn't want to be there and was stripped of the captaincy. And a lot of bad shit happened to Blake Wheeler in his last couple months as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. So it's likely a better attitude. Adam Lowry being picked as team captain, I think, was a home run. He just embodies that team and what he's willing to give up to win games. But it's the same group for the most part. Same guys, same coach, just getting better goaltending, better play from certain guys. And they were a playoff team last year, so I do have to give them credit for that. But I thought they'd fall off, and they haven't. They play consistently good hockey, and when they get outplayed on a Monday night, their goaltender bails them out. Their backup goaltender in Laurent Brossoit. Not to mention Nino Nederriter, who was signed in the offseason, has been very solid for them. Has been, as Kevin Cheveldayoff described it, no maintenance. Just super easy. Comes to work. Puts in the shift, plays hard, goes home. They extended him. 3-year, $12 million contracts, so $4 million a year for Nino Nederriter. He's got 14 points on the season. he's an okay player. He's a third line guy. He's been around the league a long time. Nino Nederriter has played 834 games in the NHL. Remember him when he was playing for Switzerland at the World Junior Tournament, was looked at as the next big thing coming from Switzerland. Didn't really turn out that way. But I think he helps every locker room he goes in, which I credit him for. I remember when he was a member of the New York Islanders. This wasn't all his fault, but early in his career, he wasn't really getting opportunities. He was playing a ton of hockey down in Bridgeport, and he got sick of it. He was really kind of a cancer, and he got the hell out of the island. And he went to Minnesota, and it helped turn his career around. Got around Zach Parise, Ryan Suter, who are both veterans, professionals. Zach Parise, captain in multiple locations. Suter, who was the pseudo captain in Nashville for those great teams with Shea Weber. Niederreiter's become kind of just a cog in the machine. Knows his role, plays hard, has helped the career of a guy like Morgan Barron from Nova Scotia. Build that confidence, have the forecheck game, have better line mates, night in, night out. I think the Winnipeg Jets, their Achilles heel is, they got a really young fourth line with not a whole lot of experience, and I don't think many of them are NHL players. David Gustafson's been kicking around that organization a long time. You can make the same argument for a guy like Logan Stanley on the back end, who you're looking at going, he's still here. He's still getting minutes. But Winnipeg's in kind of that weird spot where they're either dressing. Some nights they go with 7 defensemen, which they did last night because they don't have enough forwards that I think they truly trust in to put on the ice. Dallas is a very good team. Colorado has had their problems the last little while, but I look at them and I think they're a very good team. Winnipeg is not on their level, either of those teams, in my mind. But could they compete and finish third in the Central? Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. I'm not saying it's a given, because Arizona has been very good. They're only 2 points back of Winnipeg. St. Louis is only 3 points back of Winnipeg. I mean, Arizona's won 5 in a row, and they're all against the last 5 Stanley Cup champions, which is quite staggering. Michael Carcone has 12 goals in the season. Probably never heard of him. Beat Washington 6-0 last night. They might build a new arena. They're beating people 6-0. Nick Schmaltz, he's having a run. Nick Schmaltz has 20 points in 24 games. Clayton Keller is on a point per game pace so far this season. What's great about it is Logan Cooley has just been okay. 14 points in 24 games. She might look at it as underwhelming. Only got 3 goals. But I've seen him be dynamic. He's gone through his spurts, like Connor Bedard has. He's a rookie. It's going to happen. But the team's playing well, regardless of him being a rookie. Just like Zach Benson's going through his ups and downs. Just like a guy who, in Chicago, you look at Bedard and you see him and he kind of takes all the oxygen because it's Connor Bedard and he's so talented. And the team went through the whole Corey Perry incident, and unfortunately he got caught in the crossfire. But they got a really young back end in Chicago. And they have a player in their back end in Kevin Chorczynski that I assume the Team Canada World Junior staff, led by Brent Seabrook, thought that Korchinski would be available. He's not going to be playing. He's played 23 games. He's minus 12, so if you're, my parents, you think he sucks. But I think he's been good. I think he's making better decisions with the puck. I like his skating. I think he's big. He's got a lot of good things. He's going to need time. But again, to still have the confidence, to still play hard on that team that gets worse because Taylor Hall's out and then you lose Corey Perry. Corey Perry was playing well. It hurts you. It's going to be a long year in Chicago. Tonight we got a large slate of games in the NHL. Kings in Columbus, Rangers, Senators, as we mentioned, Sabres, Red Wings, as we mentioned, Sharks in Long Island, Preds, Blackhawks, woof, Ducks, Avalanche, Minnesota and Calgary. I'm curious to watch that one. That's my game of the night for me. And then you also get the Hughes brothers, all three of them playing each other tonight in Van City. New Jersey's in Vancouver. That will be fun because you get three players with all this kinds of skill on the same ice. Luke Hughes, Quinn Hughes, Jack Hughes. So that's in Vancouver tonight. But there's something to watch tonight, something to keep your eye on for sure. I'm not going to get into the NBA too much today, but I want to give them props. I think the in-season tournament was a win. The preliminary round, if you will, was a slog. Tuesdays and Friday nights, I don't know who's in each conference or each division, whatever they call it. I don't know who's in what. Didn't really care. Floors are goofy and look stupid. Nobody will be able to convince me to the contrary of that. But I realized last night, it's the quarterfinal games of the NBA in-season tournament. And Indiana won their group, I guess, because they're hosting the Celtics. It was a great game. The atmosphere in Indiana was fantastic. Tyrese Halliburton is becoming a star right before our eyes. Triple-double, outplayed Jason Tatum, made big shot after big shot in the clutch. And the Pacers, who play absolutely no defense, but can score with anybody, outscored the Celtics. Now, the Celtics did not have Kristaps Porzingis, but still, that's a big win for Indiana, and they advanced to the semifinal game, which I guess is Thursday night, in Las Vegas. Then you have the nightcap. You get the Nolans Pelicans playing the old light the beam Sacramento Kings. And the Pelicans won that game on the road. So Zion Williamson's in the Final Four of this thing. He might win a tournament after all. Couldn't win one in college. Maybe he'll get one in the NBA. Two things. The players seem to care about this in-season tournament regardless if I think the trophy is stupid and meaningless. The games are more high intensity. And other than Kristaps Porzingis, there's no load managing, which is the biggest problem the NBA had. The NBA did not have a regular season problem. I disagree with that sentiment. Their regular season is just as entertaining as any other, other than the NFL, which is better. But if you're comparing NBA to NHL, what's the difference between a Tuesday night in the NBA, Tuesday night in the NHL? Not much. If you like the sport and you have a favorite team and they're playing, you're probably going to watch the game, right? Normally how it works. Or if you just like sports in general, you're like, well, Tuesday I could watch the reruns of The Crown with my wife, or I could watch a hockey game. I know what I'm picking. And it's not the stupid Crown. So the NBA did not have a regular season. They had a player problem. Players had run amok. They were controlling everything. Oh, I got my knee hurts. Oh, we got to play in 2 days. Load managing tonight. Kawhi Leonard, Greg Popovich. They started this. And it's turned into a pandemic. Shout out Fauci. Turned into a pandemic for the league where everybody's not playing. I'm sick, I'm hurt, I can't play. And you got people paying crazy money to go to an NBA regular season game, and they might not see LeBron, they might not see Luka Doncic, they might not see Tyrese Halliburton play. This helps ratings. Put it on ESPN, put it on TNT. I see they're collaborating with media companies for the semifinals. Mike Wilbon and Stephen A. Smith are going to be on the Inside the NBA panel with The Better Show, with Barkley and Kenny and Shaq and Ernie Johnson, which is fun. But the in-season tournament is working, but I think if the argument is, well, the regular season was broken, we needed this, that's wrong. The players were the problem. And I don't know, I think it's going to be a success this week. And you have a lot of big media companies in Vegas who are stoked about the in-season tournament. And I'll be watching the games. There's 2 games tonight. I know one of them is Suns and Lakers. Knicks, Bucks, that's the other game. So 2 in-season tournament games tonight. But once it's over on Saturday, because it's over, somebody will be crowned a champion. How's the regular season going to be in January? In February? After the All-Star break, how many guys are sitting out games? How's the load managing going around the league? That's what I'm curious about. Because there's only one in-season tournament per year. There's not another one in the second half. It's not like Survivor, where somebody gets voted out. You go to Redemption Island, and you have a chance to get back in the game. There's one in-season tournament. You're done. It's done. It's done. It'll be back in fall of 2024. But do I think it's helped? Yes. It's helped people care about regular season NBA more in December. Where you could argue people really only start caring about the NBA on Christmas Day. Which I don't even know if you can make the argument about that anymore, because the NFL's got 3 games on Christmas Day this year. Ugh. Adam Silver's just despondent beyond repair that the NFL is stealing his day. They owned it. Gary Bettman won't do it because he'll want to give his players days off during that. He'll say it's because I want to give them Christmas. Or you just don't want to have games because you know your ratings are going to fucking suck. But what's really the truth here? I wonder. But those games were fun. 2 more games this evening. Kudos to the NBA for the in-season tournament. NFL. Jaguars a double-digit favorite last night against the Bengals. No Joe Burrow. Wounded T. Higgins. No Cam Taylor-Britt at corner because he was put on IR before the game. And yet, through all of that, through Zach Taylor calling 2 plays for wide receivers to throw passes during the game last night, which I did not understand, the Cincinnati Bengals went into Duval Nation and whooped the Jags. Not really, but really, in overtime. They got to the line of scrimmage. They hit Trevor Lawrence. Jake Browning had all the time in the pocket to make plays. Jamar Chase went up and made some big catches when he had to. And Jacksonville did not look ready, did not look prepared for the game. Since you tried to give the game away with these Tyler Boyd throwing a pass when Jake Browning had 2 incompletions at that point. And yet the Bengals still overcame all of it. The hot bottom item is Trevor Lawrence, high ankle sprain. That's why the Jaguars lost the game. If you watch the game, you know that's not the case. He was injured in the 4th quarter. The game was tied. But Bengals had momentum. Jaguars were struggling the entire night on 3rd and 4th and shorts. They weren't converting them. And Trevor Lawrence took a hit. His ankle went the other direction, threw his helmet down. He knew he was injured. Thankfully for him, it's not an end-of-the-season injury. Because that would have added to Kirk D. Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Richardson, Deshaun Watson, who cares? Of quarterbacks this year, Daniel Jones, who suffered season-ending injuries, but he's okay. He's going to miss some time. It's a week-to-week thing. The bigger news is Cincinnati finding a way. Jake Browning just distributing the ball early on, throwing screen passes, getting the ball out of his hand quickly to get some confidence. Then noticing I have a guy named Jamar Chase on my team, who's one of the best receivers in football. I'm going to give him a chance. Throwing the guys over the middle. They weren't getting their tight ends involved early in the season. They're starting to do it more and more now. Joe Mixon, Sidney Brown, Illinois running back, Canadian, two-headed monster. They get that chugging. The Bengals are now a game out from the last postseason spot in the AFC. They look dead to rights, but they're not. You can't definitively say that because I don't think any team is. Bengals are 6-6 with the Bills. With the Broncos. Chargers 5-7. Raiders 5-7. Texans are 7-5. The 7-5 Colts. Bengals play the Colts this upcoming weekend in a massive game. Host the Vikings. At the Steelers, who may or may not have Kenny Pickett. At the Chiefs. And then play the Browns, who are in quarterback limbo. There's no game in there that I'm confident the Bengals will win, but there's also no game I'm completely confident the Bengals will lose. So that gives them a chance in every game down the stretch. And I feel the same way I do about the Colts, Broncos, Texans. There's injuries galore. It can happen to anybody. Browns are in a playoff spot. They're without two quarterbacks. They're also without, a member of their secondary and a wide receiver. Steelers without a quarterback right now, and they miss Cam Hayward for the majority of the season. Colts are without Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, their number one running back. And they cut Shaq Leonard, who went to the Eagles. You go through every team. It's about the Buffalo Bills are missing half their defense. The Chargers are missing a head coach because Brandon Staley isn't one. Raiders, again, no real quarterback, interim head coach. Okay. Jets, Aaron Rodgers, Titans. It's not a very good team. Patriots are missing about 100 things. But somebody's going to get in. Could it be the Bengals? Sure. Jake Browning played a good game last night. And it's not as if it was just checkdowns all night. He started to air the ball a little bit, started to get some confidence, and make some throws down the field. He played well. And the Jaguars lose Trevor Lawrence for TBD. And Christian Kirk gets injured in the first quarter. And it's reported he's out 8 weeks, which would mean he'd only be line in return for the Super Bowl. So he's likely done for the season. Let the Jags make the Super Bowl. So some really tough news, not to mention C.J. Beathard hurt his wrist after coming in for Trevor Lawrence. So who the hell knows? Could be Nathan Rourke, the former CFLer, the Canadian playing for the Jaguars next weekend. Jags are 8-4. They're in the 4th seed in the AFC right now. The Miami Dolphins are the number 1 seed, if you can believe it. Head of the Ravens, head of the Chiefs, head of the Jaguars. But the Jags are only a game up on the 7-5 Colts and only a game up on the 7-5 Texans. They're at the Browns, host the Ravens, at the Bucks, host Carolina, and at Tennessee. Not Murderer's Row. Pretty soft schedule, but with C.J. Beathard, without Christian Kirk, who's really important to that offense, without Cam Robinson, their left tackle, it looks like a different team. You don't feel as confident about them. I haven't looked this up yet. I'm going to do it with all of you right now. If Trevor Lawrence was healthy, the Jags would have been big favorites against the Browns this weekend with Joe Flacco or DTR or PJ Walker, whoever the hell else is going. Now the line. The Browns are 3-point home favorites against the Jaguars this upcoming weekend. 2 players swing, and you're going into a game where neither team has a quarterback, and the Browns are a full 3-point favorite. Because they're trusting in Joe Flacco or DTR more than they do in C.J. Beathard. Crazy how things can change in a night. You go from a 10-point home favorite to a 3-point dog to a Cleveland Browns team that don't occupy a starting quarterback. Craziness. But that Jags defense was horrible. They couldn't get a stop. They couldn't tackle. They weren't physical. The Bengals took it to them. The Bengals deserved that win that game. They were going to win that game regardless of if Trevor finished it, in my opinion. But it's completely shifted the balance of power and how we look at things moving forward here. Other NFL news, Shaq Leonard, I mentioned this. He signed a deal with the Eagles, chooses the Eagles, spurns the Cowboys. They meet each other this weekend. So Cowboys will be able to get the revenge. They need help at linebacker. He decides to go there. Also, Ndamukong Suh, sounds like he's coming back to the league. He could be signing with the Eagles relatively soon. And Logan Ryan, former Super Bowl champion with the Patriots, playing a long time with Tom Brady, also played with Brady on the Bucs. He signed with the San Francisco 49ers today to get some help in the secondary. So veterans who weren't playing the whole year get an opportunity to come in, join already good rosters. Then there's today in the NFL. New York Jets. Craziness over the last 48 hours. Diana Rossini of Now The Athletic reported that the Jets want to make a change at quarterback and they want to go back to Zach Wilson. But he's not 100% on board. He doesn't really want to do it. So they don't know what they're going to do. Robert Saleh came out and said if Zach wasn't 100% committed, he wouldn't be on this team. Well, then the Jets today outright released Tim Boyle because he's been dreadful from the beginning. He should have never probably made the NFL looking at his college numbers and what he's accomplished. But they release him. They bring in Brett Rippon from the Seahawks practice squad. So they bring him in. So now I don't know who the Jets are starting this weekend. It's going to be Zach Wilson. It's going to be Trevor Siemian. It's going to be Brett Rippon. Doesn't really matter. Aaron Rodgers did a whole tour of ESPN today, talking to McAfee and Stephen A. Smith, doing his rounds, which I always love to hear him speak because he's interesting. But he might be practicing, but he's not coming back this year. The Jets probably won't win a game down the stretch. They're 4-8. They're done. Home to the Texans, at the Dolphins, Commanders, Browns, Patriots. Well, maybe they will. They got some bad teams in there, but they're just as bad as those teams too. But Tim Boyle is out. Is Zach Wilson going to? There's a lot of just chaos there. I understand it from Zach Wilson's point of view. If the report was true, I wouldn't really want to start. Team gave up on me again. The offensive line is terrible. I look brutal. I'd rather just leave this organization this year, start somewhere fresh, and see what happens with my career. See if I can rebuild it. It's not going to be with the Jets. Can I go be a backup quarterback like Sam Darnold is in San Francisco? And people just forget about me and maybe I get a shot down the road and I'm good. Can he be Geno Smith 2.0? I doubt it, but you never know. Quickly to college football. That transfer portal is crazy. Season's over, and players are going, okay, we're done. There's bowl games, but we don't want to play in them. First off, Dylan Gabriel. Been in the college world a long time. Oklahoma the last 2 years, put up good numbers. He enters the transfer portal. Kind of surprising to me. Reports today that Oregon really wants him. They had a lot of success getting a transfer quarterback. They took Bo Nix from Auburn, and they made him a Heisman finalist. So Dylan Gabriel probably looks at that and goes, that will help me with the NFL draft next year. I'll go to Oregon, work with Dan Lanning. This one stunned me. Kyle McCord, quarterback at Ohio State, enters the transfer portal. I don't know if Ohio State told Kyle McCord, we're not starting you next year, so he's jumping because of that. But if he's getting into the transfer portal because he thinks there's better opportunities elsewhere, I don't know if there is. You just play with Julian Fleming and Marvin Harrison Jr., who might be, the best wide receiver in the last decade. I mean, come on. But he's leaving Ohio State still with eligibility. And just to see a Buckeyes quarterback enter the transfer portal after playing every game this year stuns me. But maybe he'll find another opportunity, a better opportunity for him. But he adds to the list. Cameron Ward, a longtime guy, enters the transfer portal. Riley Leonard leaves Duke, likely to go to Notre Dame. Tyler Van Dyke's in the transfer portal. Haynes King, Georgia Tech's quarterback. Max Johnson has already gone to North Carolina. Julian Fleming, wide receiver at Ohio State, nearly 1,000 yards this year, transfer portal. DJ Ugale, 1 year at Oregon State, transfer portal. Money's great, but it's tough to keep track of everything, where everybody's going. But seeing Kyle McCord leave, that was a stunner. Heisman finalists were also announced yesterday. The finalists are Jaden Daniels of LSU, Marvin Harrison Jr. of Ohio State, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix Jr. of Washington. I think Jaden Daniels is going to win the award. It easily could go to Penix. Undefeated season with Washington. He's another guy who transferred. 3 transfer quarterbacks on this list. Jaden Daniels started out at Arizona State, goes to LSU, Heisman. Penix, Indiana, go to Washington, win the last Pac-12 title ever, be nominated for the Heisman Trophy. You're going to the college football playoff. hell of a run. And Bo Nix, who's kind of an afterthought at Auburn, turned it into 2 great seasons. Most college games started by a quarterback ever. Now I think he's going to be an NFL player, which I didn't think when he was leaving Auburn. So they all really helped transferring over and getting a different look, getting a different opportunity. So I think that's why you see a lot of quarterbacks going, okay, I'm getting the hell out of here. Maybe the grass is greener on the other side, financially and for my play, for my future career in the pros. But yeah, it sounds like Dylan Gabriel to Oregon, but also Pete Thamel of the Mothership reported that USC really wants him, with likely Caleb Williams going to the NFL. He's already announced that he's skipping USC's bowl game. So maybe he likes the Chicago Bears more than we think. Maybe he'll go there and play with DJ Moore and the talent that they have on that field. We shall see. College football is always chugging. To wrap the show today, UFC over the weekend. Awesome event in Texas. One of the best fight nights of the year by far. Arman Tsarukyan, first round knockout of Benil Dariush. Beautiful combination. Kind of a fake, tried to fake a knee, lands a big overhand right, gets another as he hits the ground. Jumps him into 4th in the lightweight rankings. To me, Charles Oliveira is right there. They want Charles versus Islam too. I don't really want that fight. I saw that fight and it was one-way traffic and Charles was nowhere in it. Since then, he beat Benil Dariush just like Arman Tsarukyan did. If I'm the UFC, I'm booking Islam and Justin Gaethje. Because Justin Gaethje is box office. Justin Gaethje just knocked out Dustin Poirier with a head kick. He beat Rafael Fiziev. And he's probably the most entertaining fighter still at his age on the roster. So you can get him in a title fight regardless. If it's in Abu Dhabi, if it's in Anaheim, if it's in Vegas, you put Justin Gaethje in there. That's what I would do. But Arman Tsarukyan absolutely is in the mix. Tsarukyan, Charles Oliveira would be a lot of fun as well. 2 guys that have a lot of really the similar skills. 2 guys that can throw hands. Charles beat Benil Dariush, so is Tsarukyan. But I don't think Charles deserves a title spot right away. Co-main event, Jalen Turner, nasty knockout of Bobby Green. One of the worst late stoppages in the history of the sport. Just got about 6 punches more than he should have. Oh, it was gross to see. But Jalen Turner takes the fight on short notice, makes weight, which was huge news, and he jumps into the top 10. He came off a loss to Dan Hooker. But now you're looking around, I go, that Moicano fight would be fun for Jalen Turner. I would love to see him. There's only so many guys. Gamrot's another guy that he's toyed with before. That would be fun. Jalen Turner should not be a 155-pounder, but he is. He's making the most of it. He's got power. He's got that huge frame, which helps him in the division. He can be a player at lightweight because he's got the power and he's got the size to do it. Just needs to put it all together. Wrestling night, Sean Brady dominant over Kelvin Gastelum. 3rd round submission. Brady, first fight since his loss to Bilal Muhammad. Looked fantastic. Call out Ian Machado Gary. Would love that fight if Gary can win in a couple weeks at the last pay-per-view of the year. Sean Brady's really talented. He's got all the tools. He's strong. He's great. He's a great grappler on the ground. Works hard with guys like Aljamain Sterling to really improve his wrestling. He looked great. And I think it validates that Bilal Muhammad's pretty damn good because Bilal Muhammad's the only guy to ever beat Sean Brady. Davison Figueiredo, former flyweight champion, moves up to bantamweight, 135 pounds. His first fight, he wins on all three scorecards, 30-27 over Rob Font. He gets the number 8 in the rankings. So many options for him. So many interesting fights at bantamweight, which you could argue is the most talented division in the UFC. I doubt he's going to want to fight his friend in Henry Cejudo, who they've been training together for quite a while. But there's other guys that I think would be fun. Cheeto's obviously booked. I think Petr Yan and Figueiredo is the fight to make. That's just a fun fight. Sandhagen's up there, Davishvili. But if you could book Petr Yan, Davison Figueiredo, say UFC 299, UFC 300, that's a really fun fight to add to the card. Two former champions in the cage together. Petr Yan hasn't won a fight in a number of years. Figueiredo's in the division now. I think that'd be fun. Let's see what else we got on the card. Clay Guida, the veteran, lost a fight, but he was great in it. He easily could have won that fight. He was game the entire time. Probably the best he's looked in a number of fights. And he's not a spring chicken, but he brought his all. Dustin Solfa, second round submission. Big win for him. Miesha Tate, first fight in over a year. And she was dominant against Julia Avila. To me, she had 2 10-8 rounds. She gets a submission in the third. If I'm the UFC, I'm booking Miesha Tate, Holly Holm, rematch, UFC 300. Two veterans, two awesome female fighters, two of the best to ever do it. That's what I'm doing if I'm the UFC. But the whole night you had 2 knockouts via slams. Just 2 back-to-back fights with Dregger Close beating Joe Selecki, and then Cody Brundage handing Zachary Reese his first pro loss. So just wildly entertaining, a lot of stoppages. We got a lesser card this week with the Apex, which is not as fun. But we got a pay-per-view a week from Saturday, which is, to me, the best pay-per-view of the year. So love that. But lots upcoming, lots of fun stuff to look forward to in the fighting space. An awesome boxing card on December 23rd in Saudi Arabia. So all that's forthcoming. Tonight, we got NHL games that we mentioned. We got the in-season tournament in the NBA. Going to talk about the World Juniors tomorrow night on the podcast, so stay tuned for that. That'll be fun, breaking down all these different teams, the players to watch, things of that nature, as the development camps open Sunday for teams, and I believe they depart for Sweden on the 14th of December. So that's coming up pretty damn quick. Enjoy the rest of your evenings. We'll talk to you tomorrow. This is To The Point.